I just got done watching M. Night Shyamalan's brand new movie, Knock at the Cabin. Now, when I say that movie, a lot of people go, whoa, M. Night Shyamalan, really? Well, I'm an M. Night Shyamalan defender, but there's a lot of movies on his filmography that I definitely will not defend, but I would go as far to say that this is hands down an incredibly made movie, and it's easily one of his best films in years. I would argue it's probably his best film since Signs. But what is Knock at the Cabin about? Well, while vacationing at a remote cabin in the woods, a young girl and her parents are taken hostage by 4 armed strangers who demand that they make an unthinkable choice to avert the apocalypse. Confused, scared, and with limited access to the outside world, the family must decide on who must die in this family to be sacrificed to the entire world. That is a very genuine and tragic question to be asked. A loving family, you take 3 people, you put them in a room and pretty much say, one of you must die. You cannot kill yourself, but one of you must kill the other person, and you must actually accept it. And that will save the world and avert the apocalypse. That question is very genuine, and now this movie is based on a book. I have not read the book yet. I own it, and I'm very excited to finally start it. I've been putting it off because I wanted to see the movie. I was going to read it beforehand, but I decided, no, I want to be surprised. I do not want to know the ending of this, and flat out, I love this movie. I love this movie. I actually genuinely got tears and emotion from it because I actually thought about this question. Like, leaving the movie, I thought about this question, and what I love is that this movie does make you think about that. There's, certain things in here that maybe are a little bit surface level approach, but one of the genuine things that I love about it is the way that M. Night Shyamalan actually directed this movie and framed it into so many lights. And it's a weird movie to kind of put into a genre box because it's a drama. It has horror moments to it, but in the end of the day, it's more of a mysterious psychological thriller that really provides a lot of context and deep thinking that when you leave the theater, if you watch this with a loved one or a friend, you'll be able to have those conversations with one another. Before we get any further into this review and we start diving into my pros and my cons, make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Are you a fan of M. Night Shyamalan? Are you a defender like me? What is the last M. Night Shyamalan movie that you really loved? I'll be having a ranking of all of his movies this week, so make sure to look forward to that. And other than that, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button as well as leave your thoughts down below. And with every movie review, the main thing that I love to start with is the performances, because I think that is one of the things that can really make or break a film. But one thing that this movie does bring about is the incredible performances from this. Now, I'm going to leave my favorite performance for last, but I do want to get the ones out of the way. Of course, Nikki Bird is fantastic. Quinn is great. Rupert Grint has just been really doing a great job in these supporting roles over the last couple of years. And Kristen Cui, who plays Gwen, the young girl in here, is also fantastic. I was surprised when you get a young child performance in there how that's going to work out. And the opening of this movie with her and Dave Bautista is fantastic. But I did just mention Dave Bautista, and I'm about to talk about him. But I do want to talk about Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge, who I'm big fans of both of them. And them playing a couple, you really, really come to believe it. And whether it was between the writing, the chemistry, and just in general their dialogue, you really become inverted into their relationship. And that was actually one of the things I was going to be very worried about, because midway through the movie I was like, I don't know if I believe them as a couple, but thankfully because of some great script writing, there's some good flashbacks in there that really build up and elevate them to a certain degree. And there's certain things about their characters that you may miss, but when you have a conversation with like a friend or a loved one, you're going to be able to be like, oh, you picked that out. And their performances are so great that as these strangers are really starting to elevate and tell them and have conversations with them, these two, in a way, their performances are so strong. You can definitely tell what they are both thinking as characters, and you believe their characters. You believe the fear and the stress that is being burdened onto their shoulders, and in general, this conversation. And even though maybe they're resistant towards the question at first, as more things start to happen throughout the story, you can definitely feel the shift in there. And I don't want to get any further into that because of spoilers, but I love their performances. But goddamn do I love Dave Bautista in here. I think Dave Bautista turns in the best performance of his career so far. I think this goes as far to show how phenomenal of an actor he is and how far he has come. And he's, excuse my French, fucking incredible in this movie. I love Dave Bautista in here. I was genuinely shook by his performance. I've always known he's a good actor. This is a great performance by him. Not just that, This isn't just a great movie. This is a fantastic movie. And maybe I'll be in the minority on this. Maybe a lot of people will disagree with me and I will completely understand. But a lot of this movie kind of hindered on the ending for me and a lot of the choices and conversational pieces that they were going to make on this movie. Because the concept itself makes it out to be one of those concepts that you're like, okay, I feel like you're going to give me one of those endings that's going to make up for a great discussion about what actually happened, what didn't happen. I was actually happy that this film does give you definitive answers throughout it. It gives you definitive answers of who these strangers are. It gives you definitive answers of what sent them and who sent them. And maybe that'll be a kind of a conversational piece of why was this couple chosen? Why were they sent? And maybe lead to some unique discussions, in my opinion. But those are the discussions that I think are okay to have. While it is kind of simple and I think you can kind of piece together what was going on, I do love that M. Night Shyamalan put all the pieces there. And I do love the ending that we get here because it is definitive. It's not one of those bad, abrupt endings that makes you go, ooh, you gotta think. And it's not bad to think in movies, but I really do hate when you get a concept like this and a director or writer really much just wants to leave it open-ended so people can have a conversation. Sometimes it works in movies, don't get me wrong. I mean, look at Inception. That is a very open-ended film. But it's worth it for that. This is a concept that I actually did think needed to have that ending, and the scriptwriter here was great. And I think what we should really accommodate here is it's not just M. Night Shyamalan writing the script this time. It's Steve Desmond and Michael Sherman, who I think all do a phenomenal job a piece with this. Again, whether it was the dialogue and some of the choices that they made, this was a very spectacular thing, very well written, and on a technical achievement, whether it's the sound cues, the audio, and the way that they actually build about the film, it really worked for me. The thing that did work for me in the end of the day is M. Night Shyamalan's direction. A lot of his shot choices at first are very questionable, but the way that I kind of look at it is it's very personable. You want to get in the headspace of each and every one of the characters and really feel in the shoes of them. So when it is up close and tight into a character's face and they're giving off a monologue, it's because you're from the frame of that character looking up at that person and having that conversational piece. It's something that at first is a little bit weird and it takes a second to get used to, but that's what M. Night Shyamalan's about, is giving those weird, awkward camera style moments, but really making it work. And I honestly thought it was a very personable choice that they decided to do. Last but not least, before we get into my mixed aspects and my cons, the pacing for this film is absolutely incredible. By the time it was like an hour and 25 minutes in, I was shook when I checked the time. I was like, wow, this movie flew by. That said, though, let's talk about my mixed aspects and my cons. Now, I don't think this movie is a 5 out of 5, but I do think it is an incredibly made movie. And personally for me, I think the only thing that does hold the film back a little bit is there's a couple dull points here and there. And I think I would have rather changed some conversational pieces. Now, I understand, again, this is based on a book, so there probably was stuff that they adapted. But as I was sitting there, I was like, there's one thing that I wish they would have changed. They use a lot of news stations to really show what is going on in the world, to kind of prove a point. Which, on the off chance, I just want to say M. Night Shyamalan's cameo in here. It's hilarious. And it didn't really fit, but it worked for the moment that it was. I kind of wish the news segments, which kind of feels a little bit from Signs, that alien scene that's absolutely frightening, and some of the news segments are absolutely horrifying. I mean, to see. There's one in particular that gave me goosebumps up and down my spine, but I wish they would have gone in a different direction to show that. And in the back of my head, again, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's something that I feel like they could have used this cabin for. And maybe it would have produced a bigger budget, maybe it would have needed a bigger budget, but there's something about that I genuinely wish they would have chosen a different location for this cabin that could have elevated and brought different moments to that, and maybe a little bit more of a sci-fi realm to the entire story. I'm spitballing, but there is something there that I think would have worked a little bit better in reflecting the stakes of this all than just showing it on a TV screen. Other than that, I love Knock at the Cabin. I think this is, again, a top-tier M. Night Shyamalan movie, which might not be saying a lot for a lot of you guys, but I genuinely love this movie. I love the themes and the thematics and the message, and the question that it makes you leave the theater thinking is, could you make this choice? Could you make this choice with your loved ones? It is a very devastating and hard film, but it is one that I genuinely loved what M. Night Shyamalan had to say within his direction and screenwriting, and the screenwriting from Stephen Desmond and Michael Sherman should also be acclaimed. Jonathan Groff is fantastic, Ben Aldridge is great, but Dave Bautista is hands down the standout here, and Overall, I love this movie. I think it's fantastic, and it is one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies. With all that said, I'm going to give Knock at the Cabin an A-. A couple changes here and there genuinely would have made this my favorite film of the year so far, as well as probably one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan films of all time. So, with that said, guys, make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Hit that like and subscribe button, and of course, until next time, look forward to that M. Night Shyamalan ranking this week, but stay classy.